Inspiration, clarity, confidence, and wholehearted growth strategies. Welcome to Your Next Chapter, the show especially for women discovering, deepening, and expanding their next chapters in business and life. If this is you, then hit subscribe now. I'm your host, Angela Rasmus, and I'm so glad you're here. Hello there, it's Angela. I hope that you are having a fabulous day. I'm in your ears at the moment on what I guess I'd like to call an in-betweener episode. So it's not a proper episode. It's not an interview. It's a little spontaneous, but I realize that you might not know about something that's coming up later this month, the 18th of November to be precise, and it's hugely, hugely valuable. And so I want to make sure that you've got an invitation. It's all about review and renew. It's about looking back at the year that was, getting grounded, and then getting clear and planning for the year that will be. Now, I'm a big believer in double planning. By that, I mean, I really recommend that you take some time this side of Christmas to have a look back through your year and to work out what it is that you want to create. And then I want you to put that aside, give yourself some breathing space, and then come back to it in early to mid-January and have another look. I've always found that when I allow myself that space, I look at what I've originally put down and gone like, whoa, what was I thinking? Or, hey, that looks good, but, or I still want to add this in, or was I crazy? I need to take that bit out. And if I only do my planning in January, then I don't have that opportunity for the reconsideration that's so darn important. So that's why I run every single year. This is the 5th year that it's on, this review and renew experience. Now, if you've got a pen handy, or you can, just remember this, so it will be in the show notes in the app, whatever it is that you're listening to this episode on. You just go to angelarasmus.com/review 2019. So that's review 2019, and you get all the details and the chance to register as well. But I just want to give you a bit of an overview as to why this is a good idea. Now, I've had a ton of positive feedback from women who have gone through this process in previous years, and I like to freshen it up a little bit each year just to give you a new way of looking at the way it was and the way it will be. But there's some parameters I want you to wrap your head and heart around before you leap into this sort of reviewing and planning. Now, number one, when you review your year, there is a huge probability that it will not look like you intended it to look at the beginning of the year. Honestly, there is not a single person that I have worked with or myself who gets to the end of a year and goes, well, I ticked every box, I hit every goal, everything was as I expected. It's just not realistic. But when we do planning, I like to think of planning as being a light parameters on what it is that you're wanting to achieve in a year. And I believe in wearing glass blinkers so that you're focused, but you're also open to other possibilities. I don't think that we want to become victim to expectations of this is how it must be, this is what it's going to look like, because that really restricts us from having the expansive thinking and recognizing opportunities and possibilities that are in front of us. We'll miss them if we're wearing normal blinkers. The glass blinkers are the ones that do the trick. So, just some examples. I had some big lofty goals this year. I was going to write my book. I haven't finished writing my book. I've started, and I've certainly got some runs on the board, but it's still a long way to go. And initially that felt a bit disappointing, but you need to look back with the benefit of what I call hindsight. And when I look at my year, I was being a bit ambitious to also fit in the book writing. And so I need to do some changes, some machinations to see when it can actually happen. Now, I also wanted to take the podcast live as a next chapter conversations, bring women together where I'm interviewing on stage and we're having discussions and exercises as a result of what you've heard. I got really excited. I bought the domain name. I had all the ideas happening in my head. It didn't happen because it was unrealistic. When I looked back at what it is that I wanted to achieve this year, there was no space to start this as well. Now, I have ran salon dinners, which have been one of my favorite things of the whole year. That's when I get a small group of women together over dinner where we have this really wholehearted conversation about next chapters in our businesses and our lives, as well as books, personal and business development books. And I've been running those in Sydney and in Melbourne and in Canberra, and they they have been an absolute delight. So I didn't expect them to be as enjoyable as they have been this year. They've just been gorgeous. So I can use a little bit of self-compassion on myself and say, hey, you didn't start the conversations in the live podcast, but you did do the salon dinners. And I reckon that was just as good. I also had this intention of running mastermind training this year. Masterminds, business masterminds are at the absolute heart of my business. I get so much out of being in a mastermind myself, and I absolutely adore facilitating these 10-month journeys that women in business have when they're working with me at several different levels. So I thought, well, you know what? Masterminds have such a great impact on people. Why don't I teach other people how to run them? So I had this sort of idea in my head that I would sort of, roll out this training program, because some of the women in my masterminds have learned so much. They're actually running them themselves in their own businesses now. But that lofty idea of developing and facilitating that program, again, I bit off more than I could actually chew in the time that was available. So I had to kick that one into touch as well. Now, if I look back on my year and go, red light, red light, red light, I could start getting a bit down on myself. And I know that that's a tendency not just of me, but of others as well. So this is what I mean by hindsight. It's being realistic and recognizing that no one achieves all the things that they expect in a year. Okay, this is an evolution, this next chapter, not a revolution. And so we look at the goals that we had and we decide, do we actually want to revitalize that goal, or is it time to let it go? Was the idea something that had real legs and it was grounded and anchored and purposeful, or was it a bit of a flight of fancy? Now, you can tell that by really connecting inside, getting clear again, that connection to what your overall vision is and your purpose and your mission. And was the idea in alignment, or was that actually taking you off as a bit of a distraction? So that's the sort of things that we think about. So another thing that I think is very important, point 2, is the importance of reverse gapping ourselves. Sure, there's going to be things that we haven't created and achieved, but I absolutely guarantee there's a whole ton of stuff that you actually have done, and things that weren't on your original goals list that have now come to fruition and are a delight. So please, reverse gapping means not just looking, here I am, there's where I want to get to, but it's here I am and there's where I was. Now, I believe that when we actually appreciate the progress that we've made, then we create future fuel, that feeling of energy and satisfaction and fulfillment that they can then drive us forward towards those new goals. Reverse gapping is essential. We're so darn good at looking at what we haven't achieved, and so often we forget to look at what we did. And as a little side note, little asterisk, if you've been in my world for a while, you would have heard me talking about how important it is to have a fabulous file. So a fabulous file, as the name suggests, is a physical file. In my case, actually, I can see it from here in my office. It's a great big box, that's got all these beautiful feathers all over it. Not physical feathers, it's the artwork on the box. But in there is evidence of your fabulosity. So when you are reviewing the year, when you've come across things that you're really proud of, goals that you've achieved, wonderful feedback from your clients, gorgeous things you've done with your family, personal goals, whatever, I want you to put them in your fabulous file. Take screenshots, print stuff out, pop cards in there, take photographs, put them in your fabulous file, so that when you do hit those times during the year where energy is low and you think, I'm never going to get there, wherever there is for you, go and roll around in that fabulous file for a while and just remind yourself, regroup, breathe, get your energy going again, and move on up. Okay, so fabulous files are really important. And step 3, I really want you to understand that a next chapter business, or the next chapter of your business, needs to serve you just as much as it serves your clients. There is absolutely no value in you giving and giving and giving to the point where you are burnt out. Okay, I've been there. And in fact, I wrote about it in my newsletter last week that I had a mini burnout just a couple of weeks ago because I wasn't being conscious enough of how I was feeling. Okay, so yes, we are here to serve without a doubt. That is my calling. There's no doubt about that for me, to empower and inspire women to step into their next chapter, whatever that looks like for you. and to help people believe in what is possible, starting, growing, or expanding the next chapter of their business. But it's absolutely no use if I have done so much work, if I've delivered so often and so intensely that I just burn out and fall in a heap, because then I have to regroup, and it just takes a while to do that. So have a look at your energy levels this year. How have they been? Do you need to make changes? Do you need to get a little bit more realistic? Sometimes we have a really hectic month or quarter or year, and then we need to breathe and have a more receptive, a less hustly time as well. What is it for you? So this is the sort of mindset that I'd like you to start the review and renew process in. Okay, so review and renew, it runs for 5 days from November 18th through to 22nd. And each day we have a live training with me on Zoom. Now, it is recorded, just in case you're in a part of the world which means you're sound asleep. The calls are happening at 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and I'm not sure what that is for you, but you can check the time zone converter. There's a link on the page where you register as well so that you can check. Now, in each of those live Zoom trainings, it's a Q&A. It's not just me lecturing you, for goodness sake. I actually want to have conversations. I want to answer questions, which is why I give you the workbook for each event before you come online, so that you can do your own background work. You can look at all the different pieces that I put into the workbook and the questions that I ask you to answer, the research that I need you to do on your own business, so that you can get the very most out of each one of the calls. So I'll just talk you through the type of things that we're going to be covering. Okay, so in the first workbook, it's when we're reviewing the year. We're looking at the tangible and the emotional achievements that you've had. Now, tangible, we're talking figures, we're talking numbers, we're talking results. And those are important, because we're not running a charity, we're running a business. Well, actually, sorry, you might be running a charity. A couple of my clients do. But at the end of the day, we're there to have a return on the investment of our time and energy. And most often that means a financial return. So that side we need to look at. You need to know your numbers. You need to understand which services and products and experiences and events, etc., have contributed to your turnover. Really important to see those channels, where they've come from. But we also need to look at the emotional achievements as well. I touched on that a little while ago about the burnout. But what did you love? What really lit you up this year? And conversely, what drained you? What didn't work so well? Because they are just as important as the numbers to understand when you are then crafting the next year for you. We also want to check in and have another little look at what I call your most aligned client. Because as our businesses grow and we develop, and especially when you've been in business for 3, 4, 5+ years, your most aligned client is likely to shift. As your experience, your expertise, your confidence, your clarity grows, you may find that a shift is needed. So checking in to see if you are still aligned with the audience that you started out with. You may need to make some changes for the new year. And naturally, a change in audience will mean a change in services and in your level of visibility, communication, all of that stuff. So that's what we look at in the very first module of Review and Renew. Then on the second day, we're moving into your offer staircase. Now, that's another way of describing your product suite, the group of services and products and experiences and events that you offer to the market. Now, I'm very clear on the need, I believe, for that to be in a staircase. And as the staircase analogy tells you, people are moving up with you. So they may start with just consuming some of your free items or your low investment experiences, but then we take them through over time to higher levels of intimacy and commitment. Because what we're looking for is really to build long-term relationships with clients rather than have short-term transactions with customers. And that takes time. So having a strong offer staircase that keeps people with you for as long as they need to work with you. This is not a let's, buckle them in so they can't escape. Not that at all. But it's recognizing that if a person begins to work with you and feels that resonance, that connection may last for a longer period of time. I've actually got quite a few clients who have been with me for 4 and 5 years because this, as I said, it's an evolution, not a revolution. So I make sure that my offer staircase is open to those sort of long-term relationships. So I want to have a look at that with you as well. The third day, we're looking at your communication plan. Now, it is all very well having awesome services, of being hugely inspired to work with certain people, but then they can't find you. This is all about visibility and the reassurance that it is not your job to convince and convert, but it is your job to be visible so that you can communicate and contribute to those most aligned clients. And so I often find that people are confused by all of the different marketing options. You know, it is ridiculous. If you wrote them all down, all the ways in which you could market, you'd literally, your head would spin. It would be crazy. So it's really important not to spread yourself too thin and to choose what I call the marketing megaphone or phones and the marketing support acts that are a combination of ways in which you enjoy marketing, because if you enjoy it, you're much more likely to do it, but also ways in which will meet your audience where they are at. It will match up with their watering holes, as I call them. And again, depending on the level of business that you're at, whether you are discovering your next chapter, whether you are deepening it, you're in your first, say, 3 to 5 years, or if you are in the expansion stage, 5, 10 years plus, the type of communication that you're going to need is going to be very different. Also, the services that you're providing and the level of intimacy that they offer will mean a different way of marketing. Okay, so we need to have a look at that and decide what is the good fit for you. Okay. Now, once we've done all of that, then on day 4, we move forward into the planning part. Now, this is where you're actually putting together your business landscape, the overall ideas about what it is that you're wanting to bring into the world in 2020, and then your snapshot, how they will sit out during the different months during the year. Now, I'm a big believer in cascade planning, which means you go from vision to goals, to strategies, to tactics. You don't jump from vision straight into tactics, because then you end up with lots and lots of activity, but very little traction. So it's important to have the strategy in between. And also cascade planning in my world means that you break down that year into 90-day focuses. And that's what I absolutely look at with my own clients, and especially in the masterminds that I run. So the idea is to get the big picture and then to build out your own cascade plans during the year so that you are working on not just the things, but the most important things that will build traction and get the results that you're looking for. So on day 5, it's just a free-for-all, a Q&A. Any questions at all that you have about the 4 steps or other aspects of your business, you'll be able to bring into the Zoom call as well. And in between, we also have discussion happening in the Facebook group. Now, that's the Your Next Chapter community. You can come along and join straight away. You just do a bit of a search in Facebook and you're bound to find us. But for now, if this type of concept, if this approach to planning, doing the review, getting anchored in the services and the clients, and then planning out 2020 sounds really appealing to you, then come along and join us. Look, it's a lot of fun, but it also has huge value. So you just need to go again to angelarasmus.com/review 2019. It's also in the navigation on my website. If you're not in a position where you can write down that address, you'll find it under resources. It'll have Review 2019, Plan 2020. You'll see that as a drop down. Okay, and when you register, straight away the first workbook will come zooming out to you so that you have the opportunity to complete it before that first call. Then the other workbooks will come out later as well. I'd love to go through this process with you. It's really great to have a community of people who are working on this together, because I'm a huge believer in you can learn just as much from the person right alongside you as you can from the person that's facilitating the experience. So I'd love to share it with you. I hope you've enjoyed this little in-betweener podcast episode, but seriously, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'm sitting here at my desk in lovely Bayview in Sydney on the northern beaches. I have my new puppy sleeping at my feet, and I'm just sending this message out into the world. You know, you don't see people listening. So you, however, are taking the time, and that feels really good to know that there's people out there that these podcasts are helping. I do get emails and reviews of people giving me feedback, and that just makes my day. So if that feels resonant for you, drop me a line. You can always get me, Angela@angelarasmus.com. But anyway, right now, the most important thing is reviewing 2019, planning for 2020. So I'd love to see you in the group and on the calls. Any questions at all, let me know and I will see you in there. Until then, have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Your Next Chapter podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love you to share it, perhaps leave a review in iTunes, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking for your own business breakthrough at the moment, then I've got something special for you. Visit angelarasmus.com/breakthrough guide. That e-guide takes you through the 4 key gaps to close that may be stopping you from reaching the next level in your business. I hope it's extremely helpful and I look forward to talking with you again on the next episode.